anybody see the mouse? Oh my goodness, it's so hard to find it. Okay.
Well, evidently the video is not going to work because I tend to get up and move around. Is that okay on the video? You think we're good? Okay. So, welcome to the projector only art of waiting class. It's always important to know who you've asked to be your outer authority. So, this is my chart. I go by Doc Yam because I've been a doctor all my adult life. I've been healing people since I was 10 years old. My last name is Yamini. So I'm Dr. Sweet Potato. And this is my chart. I teach, you'll see why I teach what I teach. I'm a 4/6 projector. So I'm going to externalize my truth in a very, focused way. I'm a 6 line, so everything I'm talking to you about, I do, and I know works. Beyond that, I'm a transmitter, and if I surrender to you,
Just so you know, it's your phone.
Somebody's transmitting.
That's so funny. There it is, and gone. Okay. Because it's part unconscious, the 4426, the transmission doesn't usually happen until you're in my presence. So part of what's going to go on, I don't know, because each of you is pulling something different out of me. Okay. The 31/7. Hey, Caitlin. So glad you're here. The 31/7, I'm a far seer. I have vision for the future. And this shows up in a lot of ways. One of the ways is, and it's got me in a lot of trouble with people as I guide them, because I would see where they're going to be 5 years from now or 2 years from now. And I'm talking to them like they're there now, and they're not. They're where they are, but I'm seeing where they're going. And it didn't work out very well until I figured that out. What I'm presenting to you now has been incubating for a while inside of me. But now I'm starting to have conversations with people about what we're going to talk about. So I know that my far seeing is now coming into the zeitgeist of the present. And that's why I'm bringing it out. I'm coming off the roof. Hello. The other reason I'm bringing it to you is in 2019, I was diagnosed with a very rare form of bone cancer. It's called myelofibrosis. Now, this is so fascinating from a human design perspective. Okay. It's like this. I spent my life being a fake manifesting generator. Can you relate? Right? Just tearing it up, burn myself out. The nature of this disease is a mutation of a JAK2 gene. It's a gene mutation. It causes my body to put connective tissue in my bone marrow. So my bone marrow is dry. It's burnt out. Yikes. Okay. The problem with that is the bone marrow makes red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, all that stuff. And when it stops doing that, guess what tries to take over? The spleen. Now, isn't that kind of mind blowing to you? It was to me. On top of that, the 4426, when it doesn't listen to its um, authority, tends to develop immune diseases. Well, I'm getting chills all over. Okay, so I would not be here. The prognosis for this thing is you get 8 years. So as you can see, I'm about halfway through, roughly. So that kicked me way deep into my process. So I quit work as a hands-on healer in May of 2020. Stopped working, slowed down, slowed way down, and that's where this emerged from. Is the art of waiting. What does that really mean, anyway? So where we're going to go now is the any questions about that? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, why projector only? It's because we've been conditioned to go so fast that we really don't know what it is to be us. The whole world is going mad in a heartbeat, right? And we're kind of like watching the show, but we're being pulled into it. So this idea of personal rhythm is really what we're going to talk about, and how to develop a personal rhythm. Now it's called waiting, but we need to redefine waiting. Waiting is really being present. It has nothing to do with just sitting in your chair going, when am I going to get an invitation? Right? Who's going to come along and recognize me? I I'm just going to sit here until it happens. It's actually waiting is active stillness. Can you put the uh, Jalen?
Yeah.
Can you put the uh, heron up there?
Yeah.
So the spirit animal for projectors, I think, is the heron, the great blue heron. Um, and he may appear up there or not. If you've ever seen a great blue heron, have you?
Oh, the presentation came back.
Quite, quite magnificent they are. And what do they do when you see them in the water? What are they doing? They're just standing there, aren't they? They're waiting, just like that. Now, if you really watch them, they're they're waiting for the frog or the snake or the fish or to come within their field, and then they move so fast it's hard to see them. And they spear their food and it's down, and then they're back to still. That's really what we're talking about. This creature is fully present to its own rhythm in life and not pulled out of it. So that really is what we're talking about when we're talking about waiting. That word is misleading. What you're doing, what I'm doing, what we all do in our strategy is bring ourselves present to life so we know when life is coming to us with an invitation to use our precious resources. And we cannot do that if we are somewhere else. Make sense? If you're not at home and somebody comes around with Publishers Clearinghouse check, it's like, oh, too bad, I'll give it to somebody else, right? So it's important to be in your form, not in your mind. So I would like to start out with a tool that we're going to use throughout the rest of the time. And it's a scale, it's a number scale. 0 is not anything, it's nothing at all. You don't have it, it's not there, you don't notice it. 10 is like the most you could have of it. Okay, 0 to 10, right? So I would like for you to notice at this moment, on a scale of 0 to 10, where is your awareness? How much of it, 0 to 10, is up here? You don't have to tell me, just mark it yourself. Now notice 0 to 10, where are you with your body? Chances are very high that until I mentioned your body, you didn't even notice it. Until I said, check on it. Now I noticed this for myself right off, that I was spending most of my time in my journey. You know, when death comes knocking, it can be rather fascinating what it does to the mind, right? So all these stories start going off, and as they go off, my body keeps getting tenser and tenser, and it wasn't working for me. So the next thing I would like for you to do is take a moment, and if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. And if you're listening to this in your car, don't close your eyes. And just scan your body. Start at the bottom or the top or wherever you'd like, and notice where the tension is. Notice where the ease is. If you have this relationship with your body and you know, oh, this is where I carry my tension. Most people will do it in their shoulders or traps. But the one I want you to pay the most attention to is your belly. So if you would, put your hands on your belly, on your tummy. And notice if it's tight Are you holding it in? If you are, let it go Santa Claus style. Let it go Buddha belly, like that. Okay, now go in your mind and think about something that's a bit, I don't know, it's just not here. It's something that's been niggling at you. You know what a niggle is? It's poking at your life. What happens to your belly? Does it tighten? If it does, relax your belly. And then, if you can, while your belly's relaxed, check into your breath. See if you can keep your belly relaxed as you return your focus to your mind. Take a deep breath. Bring yourself back to the room. Open your eyes. Keep your hands on your tummy. This is the dance we're playing with in waiting. It's between the mind and the body. It's the dance. It's a balancing act, right? So before we go any further, I really want to talk to you about principles. So that in design, wait a minute, that doesn't feel right. Does anybody have anything to say about that exercise? Anything you'd like to?
So something I noticed a lot um, before I connected with HD was my splits, which you connect with actually 57 and 48. So it was this fear of future and inadequacy. And a lot of my thinking would be involved in those patterns. So I would notice that I would get stiff, like in my stomach or in my body. I would feel anxiety. And when I met HD finally, um, and I learned about those splits, I realized those were things I had to let go of. And so when I did start to let go of it, I started to notice that the mind chatter became less. And it's still there, but it's more in the background than it is at the forefront. So I notice a lot of my experience of life is more about just being where I am and then operating just kind of from that place. And when things come out of me, they come out of me. So this experience was just I feel present anyway. And I also attribute it to my 1020, I suppose. But I don't feel as tense as I used to anyway. But bringing back a situation of feeling fear of the future did bring that tension again. So it was interesting to feel that contrast again, just by instruction. This is not something I really do anymore.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Just hand it to over.
Yeah, I just want to share that this exercise or this practice is something that I got really in touch with when I started experimenting with human design. Because for me, when I lose presence, it feels not only in my stomach, but I feel it also a lot in my throat, and I feel like as if like a field or something starts pressing against my head. So for me, it's when I'm aware, those are my signposts that suddenly I left the now.
Yeah.
So it helps me come back. Sometimes it's just that I stray so far away that I forget or I lose that awareness, and then everything just gets like a bit confusing and tense, and you know, and I need to bring myself back. But yeah, just wanted to share. I think it's a very valuable exercise.
Thanks.
Oh, you're trying to get me to talk.
No, okay. So these two examples are why I stopped about principles. Okay. Uh, so the waiting is different for everyone. There's no one style to it. You see, in design, there's some principles. They're real important to keep in mind. The one of the most important ones is everybody has everything. We all have everything. If it's undefined, it just means that it's inconsistent. And you have many different ways to experience that function, right? Whatever it is, whether it's a gate, a channel, or a center. If it's defined, it's very fixed, it's narrow. Out of all the choices, you're only going to get that one to experience, right? Keep that in mind as we go forward. Everyone has everything. It's just frequency. How does it function? Is what we need to remember about that. Okay. The other thing is, and I'll use the individual circuitry as an example. The individual circuitry starts out at the 38 and the 39 and the 43. I mean, the 61. Right? These are all awareness centers. And the pressure comes from the root and it heads toward the throat, and it comes from the head and it goes down. The whole individual circuitry has struggle in it. The struggle to find out what's of value in life, the struggle to find the right spirit, the struggle to understand the mystery of what it is to be us. So every single gate in the individual circuitry has a flavor of struggle in it. Okay? Keep that in mind as we go forward. It's very important. Just because you're not a 3828 doesn't mean, I mean, if you've got the 5125, you're going to struggle, right? To make that leap into the next place. Okay, so we're going to start out. Look at does everybody have a handout? Everybody got these things you need? There you go, darling. No. I have mine. It's got scribbles all over it and all kinds of. I tend to talk to myself a lot. Okay, so we use gate 5. We're going to look at gate 5 in general. The lines of gate 5 teach us how to wait. And we will only be, because we don't have, I'm developing a class, a waiting class. So I'd love your input about that. I gave my email before, I'll give it again. And if you're interested in that kind of thing, let me know, and we'll do a Zoom class that will be experiential. In other words, I'm not going to just do this. We're actually going to learn to embody our own individual rhythm, which is really what we're talking about here, as you will see. Okay, so we start out in the fifth gate because when Ra got this knowledge, he was given the design of forms, of which one is human, the rest isn't. The commonality in all of those designs is gate five. Every single life form on the planet has gate five. So let's look at that for a minute because it's real important to the process. Tantric channels, as you probably already know, and again, my fifth, I have line dominance, 7 fifth lines, 6 first lines. My leadership gates are first line. So it's all foundational here. I'm a real foundational source material, only listen to Ra guy from the beginning, which was like 1995 or something. Okay. So, yeah. Um, so if I'm covering things that seem real basic for you, um, wherever you are on your journey, it doesn't matter. Basics are always important to go back to. Okay. So tantric channels are about the empowerment of the self. So we have this life force energy that comes up from the fifth gate up to the gate 15, the gate of extremes, modesty, right? One is real still or real consistent, and the other is woohoo, back and forth, right? And some people will say to me, well, I've got gate 15, but I don't have 5. How am I going to wait? Well, we're going to figure that out. But just remember, everybody has everything. And the fifth gate affects everybody, whether you have it defined or not. Okay? Everybody, as you will see. It's This is the universal mechanism that binds all life together in the rhythm of life. We are a life form that's embedded in life itself. So for us projectors, finding where we fit in our own personal rhythm is incredibly important. We are here to guide the other and to learn about ourselves through the other. And if you imagine that they're outside the car and you're driving like 40 miles an hour and they're running along, I mean, how are you going to, you don't even know you're gone. You can't relate to them at all. You have to find your own rhythm and establish it so you can absorb what you need to absorb and penetrate to the center to guide from your own rhythm. Okay. So I'm going to stop here for a second and give you another tool. So keep in mind, these are all tools I use all the time to bring myself present. All of us have different designs. Like you were talking about the 5748, yeah?
The splits that I have.
Yes. Uh-huh. And you were talking about the pressure in your head and how when you're not present, you go there. So both of these are different designs and they're going to deal with waiting differently because of that. However, we have to do it from our body, not from our mind. So we're going to go back to the body. So I call this a sensory meditation. You don't have to close your eyes. You can if you want. And your variables will come into play here. So everybody's going to do this different, but I'll lead you through all 5 senses. So right now, I would like for you to listen. What's most obvious is that there's a squirrel in the kitchen. Okay? Badger. There's something out there eating something, right? Okay. There's the sound of my voice. You may hear something else. Take a deep breath. Now look around the room, and I want you to tell me how many shades, or count the shades of gold. Just notice them. Really, there's so many yellow gold shades in this room. It's extraordinary. Take a breath. Take a breath. Let your breath out. Now you're sitting on your sitting, and you can feel what you're sitting on, right? Soft, hard, maybe you feel like you got to shift. Your hands are touching something. Your feet are in your shoes are bare. They're on the floor. You can feel your body touching things. Take a breath in and let it out. Smell, our most primal sense. If you ate something recently, perhaps you can still smell that. I don't know, maybe you've got some kind of perfume or cologne or scent on, or you can smell something in the room, flowers, other people. Take another breath. Nice. Lastly, what do you taste? Now, when you did that, you all of a sudden notice you have saliva in your mouth. How interesting. Take a deep breath. Beautiful. You're now present. Your mind is off until I said that, of course. And then it started going again. I have used this particular tool sometimes every 30 seconds to get me back in my body. You know, life can get very challenging. Have you noticed? So, most I have found what goes on in that I'm concerned about is just all imagination and stories from Slick. Slick is my not self. He's hard to get hold of. This guy, Slick. Okay. Waiting is done in your body. It does not have words. It's a balance of your mind and your body meeting each other in a different space. How you cultivate that space is your own personal rhythm. So the role of this awareness in the fifth gate is to not identify with concepts that try and alter the natural pattern. So now we come to the lines. So that's on the next page. And this first step in this process is commitment. It's called perseverance. First line, we don't have time to go through all the lines. Okay, we're only going to do line 1. But we're going to look at them briefly just to talk about the process so that if you want to go forward without me, because I discover I did this myself. Now, this comes from, look, the information comes from source material. But what I'm presenting you is not in source material. Do you understand? This is my take on this. I always try and be clear. Ross said that. I said that. Take it. Remember my chart. Okay. All right. This is called If the Captain Must, He Goes Down with the Ship. And what that's about is really how do you keep your own rhythm in the face of adversity, right? The ship is sinking. Are you going to stay with your own personal rhythm or are you going to give it up? Well, to do that, first of all, you kind of have to know what it is, which we'll explore in just a second with chart examples. The next one is inner peace, which I think it's so beautiful because inner peace comes from the ability to ignore the temptation to take premature action. Ignore the temptation. You can be at peace in your own rhythm if you're not tempted by the external to be out of your own rhythm. Also, it's line 2. It's the hermit. You're going to be in your own little cave. Don't let them pull you out, right? So you got foundation, then you get in your cave. Then compulsiveness is fear engendered by the sense of helplessness resulting in unnecessary stress and activity. So this is really trial and error time, right? Line 3. How does my personal rhythm interact with the world? So the first binary comes out of the spleen, and it's all about your own personal health and well-being, right? Then 3 and 4 are ajna, which is a conceptualization. And line 3 is always surprised when it meets the other. Oh, there's somebody else out here? Oh, hell. What happened? And then line 4, you begin to, I know, okay, nothing to be done. Line 4 is the hunter. Waiting is a guarantee of survival. And this really has the creative genius to transform the most passive experience into active achievement. And, line 4s can be very one-track minded. And again, this resonates. This is the resonance frequency of line 1 that said, if the captain must, he goes down with the ship, right? So this is another foundational level of keeping your own rhythm. Then we come to the top of any gate of the 5 lines. Actually, the 5th line is the end of the process. It's the exalted part of that gate, right? So it's joy. I just find that beautiful. Joy is the power to be calm and to find one's place in the flow. So, this idea of being present is really our center. In the martial arts, I've been doing martial arts since I was 16. Still do it, still practice, still train. You can tell I've run into things. Um, Even though I'm not a line 3, it happens, right? The martial arts is who can keep their alignment while disrupting the opponent's alignment. If you can keep your alignment while you disrupt the opponent's alignment, you prevail. A lot of joy in that, right? It says the power to be calm and find one's place in the flow. So the alignment is your body and your mind in the present moment is where you wait. Line 6 is not about the gate. It's about the next place. It's looking more at the channel. So line 6 is more about the channel of rhythm than the gate itself. Okay, and that is the growth of awareness comes with blending to the universal flow, accepting that in one's fixed rhythm, despite the pressures, growth will be empowered and often through the unexpected. There's no polarity in this gate. In this line. It's one of the few that has no polarity of a detriment and an exalted. So this really is about the whole channel. It's really talking about the rhythm of life and how by going through these steps, you get in the channel, the flow of life. Okay. So let's look at some things. I don't know. Elena. Nice. Okay. So here's what we noticed right off by what we're talking about. I'm just going to go in generalities here because the idea is to give you tools that you can apply in your own experiment. I'm not going to tell Elena how to wait. I don't know how Elena waits. I only know how Doc waits. Okay? So this is for you to find out, right? Your own experiment. That's where the rubber hits the road here. She's 3 parts right. And because this is coming up in our consciousness as beings, all this variable stuff, it's important. That's something you need to consider because a 3 parts left person is going to deal with waiting very differently. The balance of body, which is the 3 parts right, switches in the left. So it's more mind oriented in the left, more body oriented in the right. That's all you need to really think about. It doesn't have to be more than that. So right now we're talking about the balance of body and mind. So waiting for you, while it's for all of us found in the body, it's more for you, and how you do that might be through your wave, right? So that's part of your, sounds silly thing to say, right? It's your authority. So of course you're going to do it through your wave. That's not what I'm talking about. The waiting for you is going to be tied to your nervous system. And that kind of, I'm not emotionally defined, so I only know what people tell me. So I'm not telling you how you feel. I'm just saying that the nervousness will express itself in certain ways with you, like, right, that's going on. And you might find that as you navigate waiting, you notice that you're stiller. Your nervous energy is not coming out, and it allows you to see differently. I think it's worth a look here, or a moment to talk about the other reason I'm bringing this to you. In my own personal journey, I have noticed a difference between passenger consciousness and the witness. So let me explain. There is a design crystal and a personality crystal. They're in a mixed marriage, which is our design. This is really two different beings coming together. If you looked at, let's go back to Elena. We got to Anastasia.
It's Anastasia.
Wait,
This is Anastasia. This is Anastasia.
wait, you're Anastasia? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Where did Elena go?
She's not here, so I just scrolled through.
That's what you saw the first, yeah.
Oh, thank you. I need all kinds of help. Pretty obvious, right? Where was I? Help me.
We're two beings.
What? Oh, personality and design crystals. I have been experiencing for some time a third thing that observes them both. And for a while, I thought I was just loopy, I'm going through a lot, and, who knows what Doc's doing. But no, it's actually a very real experience. So I've done a lot of work with older people who've been in design longer than me, and we were talking about this witness consciousness, and it's mentioned in source material, but not deeply. There's no way to know where to find the markers or the guideposts to get there. It's just mentioned. For example, the quarter of initiation is the witness returning. It's where we enter into this process, and 41st gate, into that quarter, and the witness returns. What the hell does that mean, even? Right? And if you follow things around the wheel, it's a complete journey. So we enter into the mind, and then the body, and then the relationship to everything else, and then the spirit. Right? We go around and around. Witness consciousness is this third part that observes everything. I call it my eternal self, for lack of better terminology right now. I feel like I'm sitting on the edge of eternity, gazing out. Now, as I'm talking about it now, I can feel a shift in the frequency. You may feel it too. Just let it happen. It has nothing to do with your mind. When you make this shift, just observe. Witness consciousness is the base for nine-centered communication. Most of the time, when we're talking at each other, it comes from the mind out. The conversation that's nine-centered really feels like being underwater, like you feel like you're underwater. And then all of a sudden, something will rise up and express itself. And this is facilitated by waiting, this process. So as we're sitting with each other, let's just sit in this frequency just for a moment. It's really rich. And as you're here, you may notice that your mind keeps wanting to think or do something. Notice the difference between being in that state and when your mind comes in. Everybody take a deep breath now, please. Take a deep breath. So the reason I'm bringing you this class is what we just did, actually. The breakdown of the 3740 cross of planning and the approach of the sleeping phoenix. We're being called, all of us in this room, in our own particular way, by our sacred counterparts, the 2034s, to guide them. Now, whether we do that one-on-one with them, or more potently, I feel if we do it by being who we are. But listen, I'm a sixth line. Okay. If you embody this frequency, then you are actually guiding, whether it's coming out of your mouth or not. This time we're in, or approaching, I should say, I'm sorry, the penumbra. You know what a penumbra is? It's the haze around a celestial body that before you get to its light, you start to come in the edge of it. We're in the penumbra of 2027. We're not in it yet. We're approaching it. If you think it's nutty now, you ain't seen nothing yet, baby. Okay? So the 2034s are calling us to come into our guidance process with them. We have come from quad left or left land, and we're moving toward right, quad right land. Yes, we're going from 9 center to 12 center raves. We, all of us present, are Homo sapien intransitus. We are the transitory species between what's coming. We stand between. And so we're guiding what's coming to the next place with our being. These tools I'm offering allow you to access that part of yourself. Ra talked about it over and over. Did you get tired of hearing strategy and authority? Strategy and authority. It's all, that's all. Look, all of this substructure stuff can't work correctly if you're not following your strategy and authority. The magnetic monopole is not aligned correctly so that the neutrinos pass through the crystals and pick up the frequencies they're supposed to function right. That's just mechanics. It's just, I may not be saying it exactly correctly, but that's generally the idea. So waiting or being present to yourself is really what we're talking about so that the rest of it works correctly. Time. Mhm.
3:15.
Great. I think rather than go through a bunch of charts with a bunch of people, what I would rather do is sit with you in a conversation. If you have questions about any of this at the moment, or you'd like to talk about your own experiment, maybe how that works for you, or anything like that, I would just ask that you keep in mind that as projectors, we could do this for 2 or 3 days and be quite fine with it. I don't believe there's anyone coming in after us. So if you don't need to be at a next place and you'd like to hang a little longer, I'm good with that. And if you need to leave, thank you, bless you all for allowing me to be. I mean, you have no idea. Yeah, I think you do as a projector. To be used correctly, to 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 have your gifts um, recognized, it is a blessing. So all of you have blessed me today, and I am just very grateful that you came to be with me for a bit, and I with you. Um, yeah, like that. So let's go on to questions. Do you have them? Yes.
Just hand her the microphone. Just put it on the pillow in front of you.
So I have a bunch of questions. My variables are PLR, DLR. So my top 2 arrows are left, my bottom 2 are right.
Me too.
I have 2 channels from my G to throat, but I'm emotional authority.
What's your name?
Chris.
Chris?
Yes.
Oh, you weren't? I don't have you. Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay. No, no.
Um,
Okay, so just a second.
Yeah.
PLR, DLR, 2 channels.
top 2 are left, bottom 2 are
Yeah.
right. Yeah, 2 channels from G to throat. And I'm also emotional authority.
Emotional authority, 2 channels to the throat.
Yes.
Okay. Emotional authority, 2 channels to the throat.
So I often find these 2 channels could care less about this one going on down here. I often find that I don't wait for an invitation at all. It happens without me trying. So the art of waiting when there's 2 things happening at the same time, that's one of my questions. The second one is my body, it feels like I am just soaking in a vast amount of information, sensory wise, frequency, all of it. My mind isn't privy to what's going on underneath all that. So sometimes it gets very loud in here, and up here, there's a different thing happening in my awareness. So it just feels like there's a lot going on. And where I'm coming to now, it's like I don't have a choice but to just kind of like, I don't know. I'm just here. And it's terrifying. I make plans, never happens the way I make the plans. So I gave up on that. Clarity, don't know what that is. I'm just here. And that's like all I got.
Okay.
I don't even know if I'm making sense right now.
You're making a lot of sense.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah. How long have you been in your process?
Since, I would say March 2020.
March 2020. Okay.
Do you mind if I ask your profile?
5'2".
Dude, so you are innocent.
Yes.
Innocence, motivation.
Yeah, so.
Okay. So could all of you hear what was going on? I just want to make sure we're good? Okay, great. This is really common, this split between the head and the body. You know, we are in a society, not just your design, but we are conditioned to be heads and not bodies. Waiting is something that is done in the body. It's a painful experiment in the mind. Look, just check in for a minute. Check on your body again. Check on it. Is it hurrying to get somewhere? It's just sitting there in the chair, right? Or on the floor, or it's not asking you. Now, with that said, if you've been sitting for a while, it's probably asking you to do something, yes? So what I would say first is don't be so hard on yourself. I mean, I don't have your chart, so I can't be specific with you, but
Do you want me to pull it up? Would it be helpful?
no.
Okay.
We can talk more. If you want to reach out to me on my email, it's guidedbydesign@pm.me. You can do that. The other point to this is every one of us is at a different place in our process. Your experiment is unique to you at your place on the road, and it's something that never ends, by the way. It never stops. It's just as long as you're in a bioform, you're going to play with this. Okay? So some of it has to do with just Um, the experiment really, I'm telling you, the 7 year cellular change is real. It wasn't something that was put out there to make money to keep you engaged 7 years at a time. When you reach 3.5 years or so, half your cells, so to speak, are deconditioned at a certain place. So you have dropped off a certain amount of things that conditioned you. And as you move toward the 7 year mark, the body really and the mind function differently in the process. And everyone is so different how they do that. There is no blanket statement. What's your bottom channel?
4130.
4130. Nothing's coming up at the moment, but what I can tell you is that wide split. You're kind of a sounding board projector with a body. And so you need to talk. Talk to yourself, talk to other people, find people that don't have an agenda about what you do or what you decide, and listen to what you say to them.
Okay.
Okay? Then, with your emotional definition, take that and wait till you're not nervous. How you feel your nervousness? A tightness in your tummy, a tightness in your throat. It's highly likely that you get very revved up, and start having all kinds of fantasies about what could happen, what should happen, what didn't happen, and what, oh God, is that true for you?
Yeah, it's becoming less like that, but yeah.
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 So you wait till the fantasies drop and the nervousness drops, and that's your decision making experiment to play with those things I'm talking about. Because once again, I'm not you. I'm not emotionally defined. I don't know what it's like to be you. Right?
I have innocence as well.
James has innocence,
And so
motivation.
I like what you said of trying to make plans and they don't happen.
Yes.
And the idea of innocence is to have no agenda, to let things come to you, to wait, to go with the flow, just walk the Tao, innocence. So the word is surrender, and to if you can. Now these are the words until you live it, right? If you do it till you can live it more. But to don't make the plans. See what plans come to you and invite you to interact with them. And so this is the art of waiting. It's the idea of see what life wants you to do, because you're going to get options. The hardest thing is to trust that you'll get options and not, well, like you said, I've been waiting for so long and nothing's come, I'm going to get up. And the more we can just wait and let life bring you options, then that's your innocence motivation. Just don't make the plans, then you won't get better when they don't happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Thank you.
So again, this points to the individuality of the experiment and the waiting process. All of these different aspects of ourselves, what I would share with you is this is very organic if you let it be and not push it with your mind. When I look at my chart, something will draw me, and that's the next place I need to be experimenting. If I do it out of my head, I have all kinds of trouble with it. I run into all kinds of all resistance. It's terrible. It's not, deconditioning, unless somebody's not told you yet, freaking sucks sometimes. Okay, it's not for the weak. It's not. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um,
Well, I had a question about your witness consciousness. Is that too loud? Because I used to interchange the word witness with passenger in the way that I've experienced my passenger consciousness emerging. Since I was 21, I was in like Zen Buddhism and trying to practice what it is to witness the mind and witness the body and its motions. And so when I did meet HD, I started to notice my mind quiet more. And I could watch it do its narrations, whatever, but it doesn't engage me as much as it used to. And so I notice the energetics in my body and where it does want to take me. And so that's where I'll gravitate to. And her and I have a very similar design. She's only 2 days after me. So
oh, nice.
I have the 1020, the 731, the 81, and the 4130 as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I also feel drawn to communicate and say something because it just feels like it needs to come out. And I never really know what I'm going to say, even in this moment. I'm just saying stuff. It doesn't feel like it's coming from the mind. But the way you were describing witness consciousness is the way that I am experiencing this right now. And so what I'm curious is, what does passenger consciousness look like to you? And the difference between those two senses of awareness. Yeah.
Great question.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. Totally makes sense. Okay. So the question is, how do I experience passenger consciousness as opposed to witness consciousness? Way super good question. What I notice is my passenger, okay, depending on where it is. So the mind, my mind, I have a super fast, extremely intelligent mind. I mean, if you look at my resume, it's like, dude, will you stop learning stuff? You going to get another degree? You going to get another belt? You're going to get what? Right? That's my head. That's my mind. And I notice that when it's collecting data and when it's making comparisons for data, there's not as much tension in my body. It does create a tension. My passenger consciousness and the focus of it tends to create tension in my body. For me, this is the way it goes for me. Now, keep in mind, I'm DLR, PLR. So that means the top arrows are going left. That's my noggin. And the bottom arrows are going right. So I'm right body, left mind. So this is how I experience this phenomenon. Now
Should I share my variables?
yeah.
PRR or PRL, DRR. So I only have a left focus. Everything else is receptive.
So for me, I'll come back to that in a second, but for me, I noticed that, thanks for coming. I monitor the tension in my body because when I have when I'm in witness consciousness, the tension in my body is significantly less. I mean, it really is like being in a hot tub, literally. The tight places, the places I feel a block in my chi, my ki, my tightness about how my body might move, or it changes when I'm in witness consciousness. When I'm in passenger consciousness, it's a different reflection in my body. I also notice that when I'm in passenger consciousness, it's a lot more chattery, a lot more head going on. When I go into my body, the mind is just not on at all. So my body experience is one of really being deep in my body, like in you know, when I'm doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu or I'm sparring or I'm you know, in an intense physical and in tantra, the it's so body centered that my mind shuts off. That's one of the reasons I've done those things all my life, right? So that's body for me. Whole body, no mind. Mind, chatter, not self. I have a power view that transfers to personal. So when I take power stuff personally, my body just tightens up like you wouldn't believe. Okay. It's pretty, let's see. And so when I'm in witness consciousness, I can be fully engaged in power view without the pain in my body of feeling top dog, winner, loser, killer monkey place that this where we are is. I mean, it's a horror for my personal view, my power view in my body. Right. Okay. Is that too much?
No, I feel like you pretty much covered the difference. Yeah.
Helpful?
You did want, I think you said you wanted to come back to the variables, ask like my variables.
Oh, yeah. In terms of your experiment with waiting, I would say really see what it's like body first.
Well, yeah, that's kind of a mix.
Really body first. Things like, let's see, you had the 1.8, the 41.30,
This the 731
and
and the 1020.
the 10.20. So you have a
and the 2838. The 2838?
28.38. You have such a strong individuality. So the you know that really mutative energy comes in a pulse, as you well know, and being really aware of that melancholy, the in and the out, by first not putting any reason on one side of the pulse, melancholy on the other. It's just bad. It's happy. Oh, I'm happy now because my dog's here. Well, no, you're just in the other part of your melancholic pulse, right? So no reasons. The other thing is of the individual circuitry. So it's really important for you to engage in creativity, to engage your body in something creative. That could be cooking. It could be planting in the garden. It could be, I don't know, drawing pictures, playing rock and roll. I don't know. But use your body to do that as part of your experiment. Yeah?
That's right. I typically dance in the sun. Not professionally, that's my way of expression.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? How are we doing? Yeah, Caitlin?
One, can you say your email again? Because I want to get it.
My email, guided by design at PM Peter Mary dot Mary Epsilon ME.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I just feel really excited about you talking the fact that you said that
Sorry.
we're two different beings in a, what did you say, unholy marriage? Is that how you said it?
Oh, Ross said that.
You said that too? Okay.
We're two, the personality and the design, what we are, our design, if those are put together, are a forced marriage.
Well, I think that's super helpful, and that's actually some I haven't actually listened to that much Raw, but that's something that I kind of came to, and I just feel like I want to talk a little bit, if it's okay, about that process, because I feel like so much of the stuff you've said is similar to like stuff I just came to on my own in the bathtub, and I just wanted to kind of fine tune that a little bit more. And I won't go on and on, but basically, in a nutshell, it's like my mind is this like white man, and I didn't come up with that, who is like a colonizer and doesn't know any better, and is just kind of, plowing along, being its oblivious self. And then I have this body that's been like dragged along in the whole experience, and also is its own being with its own intelligence, its own consciousness, its own agenda. And so that's like a reconciliation that is like really critical to happen before you're going to be able to align in any kind of way. I think that's what my body has told me is basically like, you have to acknowledge like what you've done to me in just being a human in this capitalist colonial world, and how you've learned how to be a human. And it's been really helpful to me to look at the red and look at the black as if they were these separate beings. And so, see how the personality, which parts of me are my personality, and therefore maybe are quicker to jump in situations, versus the unconscious part that is also has something to say and something to do, but is kind of trampled or drowned out in the interests of the mind kind of jumping in. And to me, like when I can kind of hold both of those, that's sort of where that like witness consciousness might be. It's like if my mind was actually behaving in a cooperative way with my body by following and supporting, and basically instead of acting like it's the one giving birth, it's like the doula that's there to help the birth that my body is actually here to carry out or do or whatever. So I just wanted to see, like, is that how, does that strike at what you were talking about? That seems different. What do you think about that?
Design is this. It's like the Empire State Building to me. The design is like 100 stories. And you start out on the top at strategy and authority, and then you can go down. I'm sorry. You start at the top at type, right? And then you got strategy and authority, and then you got profile, and then you got gates and lines and channels and PHS and substructure, and what you go to any floor you want and hang out there as long as you want. right? And with this experiment of waiting, of understanding, being present, it's possible to descend through those floors and find the balance between the this and the that. Because I was talking about principles before, there's another principle that you should never forget with human design, ever. This system is binary. Now, there's a lot of talk these days about binary, non-binary. Look, we live in this place. It's binary. All of it, especially design. There's only a couple of singularities within the whole thing. The prime magnetic monopole is one, right? I can't remember the others. There's a couple others, but they're minor. So everywhere we look, when we descend through the floors, there's binary. There's always a this and a that, and it's always about the balance between the two, always. So if we look at, this goes on all the time, if you acknowledge this idea that we all do this, defined as good and undefined as bad, because that's where the not self lives. It's like, no, they're both a part of the whole and they function in some sort of balance. How do you find your balance with your personality activations and your design activations?
I feel like that's a third thing then. It's like the two things together make the third thing, which
yes,
is the thing.
exactly. In Tantra, it's if you look at the two come together to make a sacred we. It's always like that. All of us do it all the time. There's one thing that comes here and another thing that comes there, and they overlap, and that third is the sacred expression of both. And that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and that's sort of what our design is, right? I mean, on one level at least, you can look at it that way. It's like, we have to figure that out in ourselves.
And this idea, I mean, you can look at it any way you want. I tend to term it as polar opposites. So your polar opposites, you bring them together. What's the sacred we? How do you balance those polar opposites so that the expression is equally of both of them? And the interesting part about that is it's not what do you call stable or fixed, static. It's always fluxing between a little bit more of the personality, a little bit more of the design, a little bit more of the person, and it weaves, right? It weaves like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And for me, the witness consciousness expresses itself when I can find that balance between my design principle and my personality. There's a doorway I can walk through to the witness. Or really, I don't. It just emerges. Like it's always there, but my percentage of awareness, my self-reflected consciousness then reflects more of witness than passenger. If that makes sense to you that way.
Or like your ability to access it.
Yeah, and we're all talking about how we access that. What are our different tools and markers from our own design to access that? How do we do that? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we're coming to the end. I I really want to thank you so much for being here again. Um, holler at me if I can be of service to you, please do.
Thank you.